Julia's going to love this show because we're asking you to roll those doobies because Fran Duffy is here to go into the weeds on the Eagles defense against the Packers offense. We're covering all the angles ahead of the big game on Sunday coming up next on the PHLY Eagles podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Bo Wulf, Fran Duffy, Zack Baun here with a lot to talk about, and it's all presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365, and it's such a big matchup. We're splitting our game preview up into 2 episodes this week. Today, we focus on the highly ranked Packers offense, number 4 in DVOA against the number 1 Eagles defense. We're going to get into all kinds of bits and parts and things to think about that matchup, how we think it's going to play out. But we've also got some news to talk about. How's everybody doing, Fran? You look good. What's going on?
Thank you. I'm doing all right. Yeah, it's been a fun 36 hours.
We got like all shades of blue here.
Yeah.
Everyone got
the memo. Everyone knew the assignment. No, but it's been fun studying Green Bay for the last 36 hours. It's after sitting on it now for a couple of days, like I'm really glad that this is who the first opponent is. Just selfishly.
Why?
Selfishly for me, this was a fun way to spend a couple of days. If they were playing Washington, I'd be like, I just watched this team. Being able to watch Green Bay intently, over these last couple of days, especially that offense, as we'll get into, it's been a lot of fun.
What makes it fun? Is it the scheme? Is it the personnel? Is it what specifically appeals to the football junkie in you?
The scheme is, I would say, like a top 3, top 5, if you want to be generous. Top 5 scheme in football. And then, I mean, Jordan Love is awesome. The talent is really good. It's a really fun group to study.
And did it make you feel any differently about the matchup itself from the Eagles' perspective?
I would say no. It hasn't wavered how I feel about the game. I feel like the Eagles win the game. I do think that Green Bay can come into Philadelphia and win this one. I think that there is definitely a path for the Packers to win it. But I do think that the Eagles ultimately do take this one away.
Yeah, I was surprised by some of the YouTube comments that thought I was showing Green Bay a little too much respect and deference yesterday.
Don't worry about those comments, but go ahead.
I appreciate everyone who shops at our pizza shop, or eats at our pizza shop rather, because I'm real impressed with this Green Bay team, and I haven't studied them to the degree that Fran has, but I have watched them. I have looked at the numbers, and I think this is a formidable opponent, and I think I would warn Eagles fans for being overconfident.
Yeah, I mean, I understand some of the wariness based on, they don't have any big wins. They've only beaten 2 teams in the playoffs.
Sure.
The best teams that they've played, they've lost to. I also don't feel like they don't seem to me lining it up like the 4th best team in football necessarily. But can they come in here and win a game? Absolutely. And there's lots of reasons to think that. And maybe it starts with the quarterback, which we will get to. But before we get to the matchup itself, Zach, some news. We talked to the coordinators today at the NovaCare Complex. What's the Haps and the Craps?
The Haps and the Craps.
I've never heard that one.
Neither have I.
The Haps on the Craps.
Haps on. I haven't heard that one either. We spoke yesterday about the coaches and executives who are in line for promotions elsewhere. Kellen Moore was your pick, and Kellen Moore received another interview request. The Jacksonville Jaguars, who actually interviewed him or were interested in talking to him back in 2022. He's on Jacksonville's list. Jacksonville released that today.
Interesting list. 8 exactly. I'm going to make this a bracket. Let's go. Okay. If you're Shad Khan, who are you going to hire? Kellen Moore or Todd Monken is the first round matchup.
I would hire Todd Monken. I think Todd Monken's underrated.
Why?
First off, if you look at Southern Miss's recent history, Todd Monken. What Todd Monken?
It's very it's just like there's only one person I know who's going to earnestly start a sentence. If you look at Southern Miss's recent history,
Not the fact that Lamar Jackson's probably going to win a second straight MVP.
No. So I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Todd Monken, if you go back to when he was a head coach at Southern Miss, was successful there. Like built that program into an 8-win team, then left to go to the NFL as a coordinator. The teams that he's coordinated have had like some success. And then obviously he was at Georgia. You saw what Georgia did when he was there. And as the listeners know, I was not enthused by Georgia's quarterback at the time. And I thought he maximized Georgia's quarterback. And then obviously what he's done the past 2 years with Lamar Jackson. And now I give Lamar Jackson the credit for that. But if you just look at it from a schematic perspective, he's innovative. And I think the head coaching experience, albeit at the college level, is a check mark for him. I think he's someone I would look at.
Okay, how about you?
I would be most interested in talking to Monken.
Okay, Joe Brady or Liam Cohen?
I think I'd be most interested. Neither of them like move the. It doesn't like necessarily. I'm not like super excited about either, but I would say Liam Cohen. I would say he's done the better job.
Yeah, I've been impressed with Liam Cohen this year, but I've always kind of respected what Joe Brady's done. I think Joe Brady
since he took that one flight with me that one time.
Well, not necessarily because of that, but there you go. Also, like I did some Joe Brady work back in 2021 when the Eagles hired Sirianni. He was I think the first coach that the Eagles interviewed that year, and I think he's intriguing and what he's done in Buffalo. Obviously, Josh Allen deserves the credit, but he upgraded that team when they fired Ken Dorsey.
Okay, Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn?
That's a good one. I think Ben Johnson, just because of the offensive side.
I mean, if I'm Ben Johnson, I am not interviewing for this job, but go ahead.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I think Aaron Glenn's an intriguing candidate, but between those two, Ben Johnson would intrigue me more.
Patrick Graham or Robert Saleh?
Saleh.
Okay, Monken or Cohen?
Oh, we went Cohen there? Then I would go Todd Monken.
Let's just say Aaron Glenn because I don't think Ben Johnson's going to be there. So Aaron Glenn or Robert Saleh?
Aaron Glenn.
Aaron Glenn or Todd Monken?
Todd Monken for me.
Probably Todd Monken.
All right, there you have it. The Jaguars are hiring Todd Monken. I'm fascinated by the ordering of this. I'm sorry to waylay the show on this Jaguars tweet.
I was surprised that came up too.
Kellen Moore, Todd Monken, Joe Brady, Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, Patrick Graham, Robert Saleh. I mean, it's offense first, but it's not alphabetical.
I was going to say, well, yeah, what is the order there?
Yeah, it's weirdly ordered.
So anyways.
It bothers me.
Anyways, the Jags interviewed or are requesting interviews with Kellen Moore. So Kellen Moore now has known requests from Jacksonville and from New Orleans. Spoke about it today in a very Kellen Moore way. Said that he's only focused on the game at hand. He says you get these interviews when your team's successful, and so you focus on that. Vic Fangio was asked if he's interested in being a head coach again. He says he's happy where he is. As far as news items from the coordinators, nothing we need to specifically get into. Stuff we'll interject. It's more matchup specific stuff that we'll interject over the next 4 shows that we do, because there was some interesting insight, especially from Vic, which I'll intersperse in the conversation today. And then as far as the kickoffs, Michael Clay said they haven't decided yet. These kickers have different styles. So that's kind of what jumped out. Not really a newsy day there. I know there's intrigue about Jalen Hurts. The Eagles are on the practice field tomorrow. We'll see. I'm expecting Jalen Hurts to be on the practice field tomorrow. We'll have we can give more of a definitive answer where he is progressing in the protocol, because I don't anticipate Nick Sirianni giving us much at the press conference tomorrow, but I would not be alarmed if I were Eagles fans right now. And then
is it fair to say that the expectation right now, if everything goes according to plan, would be that he practices tomorrow? He doesn't speak. He usually speaks on Wednesday. He doesn't speak tomorrow because he's not out of the protocol yet.
Yep.
And if he recovers from Wednesday's practice, he's officially out of the protocol Thursday, and then maybe speaks Thursday. Is that your?
I would probably guess Friday he speaks.
You think he speaks Friday?
Yeah. I think this will be.
You think they'll draw it out?
I think they'll string this along a little bit more. My guess is Friday, but yeah, I am expecting him it would surprise me if Jalen Hurts is not the starting quarterback on Sunday. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Does he have to speak?
Technically, if he's not cleared out of the protocol until Saturday morning, he does not need to speak because you don't need to speak until, or you're not allowed to speak. Actually, that's part of the concussion protocol. You can't speak to the news media until you're out of the protocol. So technically, if he's not cleared by an independent neurologist until Friday afternoon or Saturday, then he would not. My guess is that he's cleared by then.
Okay, and you were going to say something else about Jalen before I cut you off. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say we have a show. We have an extra show tomorrow night, so the three of us or whoever's on that show tomorrow night will be able to discuss that, and then I'll put a video up from practice as well. So make sure you're tuned into PHLY, allphly.com for all your latest information.
Last piece of business from the Novacare complex today is for the people who tuned into the post-game show. We got the thrilling conclusion to Plaquegate. How did it go?
I would prefer to call it the Media Appreciation Award than Plaquegate. I think it was presented today to Jordan Mailata, who was a worthy recipient. I think Jordan's, as we expressed to him, I appreciate.
Yeah, I don't know if you knew that your remarks were going to be filmed and displayed all over Twitter.
No.
You did do a very good job.
Very good job.
One thing I got to say, I've always been impressed as a public speaker in events like that, like at your book events or things like that. You do a very good job.
Thank you. Coming from you, I really truly appreciate that.
That's true.
Thank you. I appreciate that that means a lot to me. Thank you. So
this is making me feel uncomfortable. I'm not used to this.
I appreciate. Yeah, I'm not used to it either. Honestly, Jordan's been accessible. He's been honest. This is not, from my perspective. Everyone has different voting criteria, and I respect everyone's different. This is not like the nicest. Now Jordan's very nice, but I don't choose it it's not like a media pandering award. To me, I view it as you're honest, you're professional, you're accessible, you're thoughtful in your answers, and Jordan has been that, and he really understands. Maybe this might be being in the same locker room as Jason Kelce for all those years. But I think he understands the role of players with the media in Philadelphia, and
I don't
really
think I need to
articulate the
necessarily
message.
give Jason Kelce the credit for
No, but I'm
Jordan
saying
Mailata, but yes,
it's not that. But I think, and
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, Jordan is aware in Philadelphia in particular of public messaging, and when he came here. He came, he didn't know, he didn't know the whole NFL media infrastructure when he came here, right? So everything he has. Now he's a nice guy as it is, and he's gregarious and he's outgoing, but there's a lot of observation too with this. And then I'll say this too. Should I say who the other recipients?
I think you're
were?
allowed to say, yeah.
Or
you're the president.
No, but should we tell them? Should I wait to tell them, or should
it might have already gotten to them.
Okay. Yeah. So first off, I think it speaks to the amount of professionalism in the locker room, that there were a number of players who received votes.
This was a 3-vote system.
Yes, but there were, over a dozen players who received votes, which shows you how many guys there are who are thoughtful and professional and honest and accessible.
Now, these were anonymous ballots, so you don't know necessarily who it was that put E.J. Jenkins 1, Thomas Booker 2, and Lou Nichols 3.
Well, that was not. No, I don't. I don't know who voted for which players unless they told me, or there were a few who did not use the Google Forms. They just emailed me directly, so those I knew.
They can't be bothered.
And also, I believe it was Lou Nichols 1, E.J. Jenkins 2, Thomas Booker 3.
No. It was changed retroactively.
Got it. All right. Okay.
So, A.J. Brown was number 2, and Saquon Barkley was number 3. And both of them would have been worthy recipients as well. And I actually think it's, there's a school of thought outside the locker room, outside the media, that AJ has a contentious relationship with, and that's not the case at all. Actually, AJ's
I find AJ to be the most approachable superstar I've ever covered.
Yeah. Wow. Well said.
From just like if you have just a side question, just to ask him at his locker, like he's willing to talk about that.
Exactly. So I mean, I know that there's like controversies, sometimes manufactured, sometimes like half truthful, but AJ has been, especially this year, but since he's been here, like he's been great with the media. So AJ was number 2 and Saquon was number 3.
Now all of that is well and good, but I think that the sickos are a little bit more interested in how you rectified the entire prize situation.
So I presented a certificate, a framed certificate, purchased a diploma frame that was had to, I was not available at a store yesterday. Had to get that overnighted.
So you paid for the trophy.
Paid for a trophy I was able to return.
Okay.
The trophy wasn't personalized.
The plaque.
Plaque, sunk cost.
Well, you gave it to him. You ended up giving him both.
I gave him. He actually appreciated it. He said the plaque will go in his locker. Yeah. And then the certificate, the Fran certificate.
Right.
I spent far too much time on this, looking up different certificate templates. Then I tried to find one that I thought was modern and professional, and I picked that, and then I wrote the little write-up that goes with it, and then there's a section on the bottom, and I'm curious Bo's opinion here. There's a section on the bottom because this was a templated certificate, and it was for the signature of the person who gives it, and I deleted that because I'm like, this shouldn't be my signature on it. This should be like our signatures on it. And so when I came in today and I showed everybody and I asked for them to sign it, but I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. Bo was a little skeptical about my decision to ask people to sign it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the Declaration of Independence. Like, I don't know. Felt a little weird to me.
Why did it feel weird?
To be perfectly frank, the entire exercise of like thanking a player for being nice to us is a little bit weird to me.
Okay, well, that's why Philadelphia hasn't given it.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that we hadn't done it in a while, but I think you did a nice job fixing the plaque thing. I don't know. The signatures are just. I feel like it makes it look less official.
Interesting.
I don't know.
I think the signature shows that it's like it's from the undersigned, right? It's not me giving you the award, or it's from the undersigned. It's from these are the people who voted. I've always thought if you sign your name to something, right? So you put your name to something.
Did anybody put like a smiley face or anything next to their signature?
I didn't say it was.
Hope you have a great summer.
Yeah. Vic Fangio came in right away, so I had to kind of wrap that thing up. But yeah, it was touch and go. I signed up for the 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. delivery slot for the frame because I got word that I thought the local office supply store would have the diploma frames.
Yeah.
They did not until Wednesday. I received
It's
word.
also like what makes it a diploma frame other than just the dimensions?
Well, it's like it's just a frame for an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, right? It's that like or a certificate.
Is that just a markup thing?
I was just saying
it's just a markup
price. Yep.
And so then I received communication from someone with the Eagles that Jordan was going to be in the building today, and that we could present it today. And so then I'm like, I need to make sure that I have this frame on time. So when that box was outside my door this morning at 5:40, and I ran downstairs and I got it.
Now you finally know what Christmas is like.
And then I had a hard time. The glass.
Oh, it's got the thing you got to peel off.
Had peels on both sides, and like my nails couldn't get underneath there, and so I had to ask Emily to like peel the. She's like,
she did not expect to be quite so involved.
No, she did not. She did not. Yeah.
Now I'm also interested, Zach. So the plaque you have here, or the certificate says presented to a player on the Philadelphia Eagles from the Philadelphia chapter of the Pro Football Writers of America in recognition of accessibility, honesty, and professionalism with the media. Curious,
Oxford comma?
You went with the Oxford comma, even though you don't write with the Oxford comma.
No, I prefer the Oxford comma. I've always preferred the Oxford comma, and I've actually. So places where I've worked, I've worked at a number of different outlets. There's
The Athletic, they do not go Oxford comma. That is not their style.
Exactly. So that's the most recent.
AP style is not Oxford comma.
AP style is not Oxford comma. I worked at one place that had the Oxford comma. I prefer the Oxford comma.
ZB style.
Because so when I do personal writing,
Open ZB style.
I always use the Oxford comma because it differentiates what's in the series. I don't like, and so the non-Oxford comma, let's say you have three, honesty, accessibility, and professionalism. So
I think most grammarians would prefer the Oxford comma.
Yes. So I went Oxford comma because I don't know. There's no formal
Good for you.
certificate.
Good for you for
style.
for stepping outside the lines. Did
Yes.
you consider period or no period?
Honestly, didn't think about that. Should I have gone period?
You're gonna keep them up.
No, I
tonight.
actually think.
Yeah, because it's subject. The subject.
I think it's
not
okay.
It's not subject verb object in there. Right? So
Sure, it is. But
presented to the.
yeah, that's implied.
Yeah. Okay.
I think if it had been multiple sentences, obviously
Sure.
you go, but I
Yes.
think it's okay. All right. I think everybody should be ready for the matchup on Sunday. We've gotten all we need to know about Jordan Love and that Matt LaFleur scheme. So we'll talk to you tomorrow. We got 2 episodes tomorrow now. Taking a break, and then we're going to talk ball, baby, after this word from our sponsor. I mean, what a layup to start with. We got Bet365, baby. Bet365. You know it's never ordinary. They've got over 90 million users worldwide. They live stream over 780,000 events each year. Early payout offers across the NBA, NFL, NHL, and MLB. They pioneer live in-game betting. And today, Bet365 offers the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Use the code PHLY365 to sign up, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. I'm trying to look it up real quick right now, Fran, because I want to ask you, everybody's, we've gotten a few comments. People want to know what you think is going to happen in that Notre Dame-Penn State game. Notre Dame favored by 2.5 on Thursday.
I think I'm leaning Irish, and I've gone a little bit back
I think
and
I'm
forth.
leaning Irish.
Yeah, the 15% of my Irish heritage is, I think, taking me that way. No, I just think at the end of the day, when you look at Notre Dame's defense, I think that's probably the best unit of the 4. I don't know that Penn State has enough offensive firepower. Tyler Warren notwithstanding, I don't think they have enough perimeter talent to be able to contend there. So I'm going to go with the Notre Dame side of this game.
All right, download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I said it that way. Let's say that you couldn't make a lot of money off Bet365. And look, you're coming off the holiday season. Everyone's feeling a bit light in the wallet. You've got a credit card balance that's weighing you down. Now, think about this. What if you could pay all of that credit card debt off a little bit faster and with 0 interest until 2026? Well, it's true because TrueMark Financial is now offering 0 interest on balance transfers for 12 months. So all of your payments can go towards reducing your balance, not just covering your interest. So if you're buying what I'm selling, settle in because here's the play. You can transfer your existing balance from another institution right now to a TrueMark Financial Visa credit card and take advantage of this amazing offer. But hurry, you have to apply by February 28th, 2025. That is 52 days from right now. So whether you're interested in earning rewards, cash back, or if you just simply would prefer a lower rate for everyday purchases, with TrueMark Financial, you can choose the credit card that best fits your financial needs. Visit TrueMark.com/compare for full details and to apply today. TrueMark Financial, federally insured by NCUA, equal opportunity lender. Terms and conditions apply. All loans subject to approval. 3% balance transfer fee applies.
All right. Packers offense. Number 4 in overall DVOA, Fran. And, It's interesting. They are the second most run-heavy team in the league behind the Philadelphia Eagles. Not a surprise. Do you think that for Vic Fangio, as he begins the game plan process this week, does it start with stopping the run? What do you think is his number one priority here?
Look, I think that he will always say that he wants to stop the explosives. That's always going to be first and foremost. But I do think when you look at the way that this Eagles defense has found success for most of this year, going up against teams that want to be balanced, you have to stop the run first, and then that gets you to third and long. That's where, it's not like they turn up the heat from a blitzing standpoint, but you let that defensive line really cut loose and get home, all those extra bodies in coverage. To me, that's been such a winning formula for the Eagles, and I think that when you're going into this game, Green Bay is going to want to run the football. I don't anticipate that formula is going to change for them. Jordan Love is a little bit banged up. I think they're a little bit worried about what that defense is right now. We'll get into that later this week. I think that this is a game where they might want to shorten the game a little bit, want to try and limit possessions. So to me, I think that's stopping the run. I actually put it on my notes that'll go up on allphly.com later this week. First key to the game, I think it's going to be stop the run. Green Bay is going to want to lean on it early. No team has more runs and more yards in the first quarter of games this year than the Green Bay Packers. They come out wanting to run the football. I think that's going to continue here in this game. That's what they're going to want to do.
All right, let's talk tendencies first for those numbers. Okay, so by down, just by rushing rate, designed rushing rate, by down. Okay, on first down, the Eagles are number 1 in the league at 65%. Packers are number 2 at 62.5%. On second down, the Packers are number 1 in the league, 48%. Eagles are number 3 at 47%. On third down, this is where they differ a little bit. Eagles go up to number 1 again.
Yep.
Packers are down at like number 18. They run 19% of the time. I think a little bit of that is the Eagles' fourth down.
No, you can go for fourth down, push, all that. Yep.
But the Packers want to run on early downs.
Yep.
And those are both near 50%. In terms of their success rate, now they're number 3 in run DVOA.
Yes.
But there's a little bit of a disparity between like the success rate and the EPA.
Yeah,
and I think this is the case for their offense as a whole,
and for their defense too.
And they're right, and which is like turnover heavy. So rush success rate, they're 10th in the league.
Yep.
Overall, it's they're 6th in yards per rush. Now this is interesting to me as well. 19th in the league in the percentage of times they see an 8-man box. And so for an offense that is as run heavy as it is, why is it, do you think, that they don't see stacked boxes that often? Because the Eagles are towards the top of the league.
They're at the top of the league in terms of the stacked boxes, and also defensively, the Eagles they play light box to the run all day long. So that's I would imagine that's going to continue in this game. Part of these numbers, I was thinking about this because when you look at how often no team has been blitzed more than the Green Bay Packers, and you're like, man, like why are teams blitzing Jordan Love? You got to remember too, like some of this can be a factor of what division you're in, and when you go up against the Detroit Lions, the Minnesota Vikings, that's 4 games against 2 very blitz happy teams that can kind of throw those numbers off. So without looking at like the how often some of those teams like to load the box, I think that those kind of things can tilt in their favor, especially because you have 2 very unique defenses in Minnesota and Denver.
If I could interject here, because and thank you to Professor Selman who texted us about this today. He pointed out that the Eagles blitzed more in that Green Bay game than they have throughout the year. And I'll let Deniz give the numbers when he gets here. In particular, some of the defensive formations that they used. I asked Vic today about that, and basically, was that dictated by the opponent you were playing, or was that because you were still trying to figure out your defense at the time? And he said it was a little bit of both.
Yeah.
So I am curious if it's something about that Packers offense that they like to blitz,
right?
Or if at that time in the season, Fangio thought he needed to blitz more with his pass rush.
Yeah, I thought about it because Daniz and I were texting about it yesterday.
Well, they have a separate
flex.
So
I feel like Coach Flynn right now. Or I feel like Coach Flynn's texting you guys, and I'm not on it. Yeah.
Well, because he had presented that as a question, and I thought, a few weeks ago when he blitzed a bunch. Which game was this? When the Eagles blitzed more than normal than what we had seen, and he was asked about it. And he said, "Oh, the rush wasn't getting home." In that game, I think
it was the end of the Commanders game.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So they were blitzing more often in that game. He was asked about it the following week. He said the front 4 wasn't getting home in that game. not only was the front not getting home, but also remember that was the slick surface down in Brazil and Sao Paulo, and nobody's getting good footing. Maybe he saw something there and said, you know what, maybe we want to blitz a little bit more often. So I wonder if that may have played into the equation as well.
Yeah. Now, I do know behind the scenes that and we've said this on the show, that turf they thought was a major effect on the game for both sides.
Both teams,
so that would really add up.
You could see and I watched a handful of plays from the game, but I didn't go back and rewatch that game just because it was so long ago. I don't think that there's a ton to take away. But I remember from watching it back in September that, Jordan Love, like every single drop back, his back foot would hit the top of his drop and slide. Like he just could not get good footing the entire game. It definitely affected him throughout.
So back to the running offense of the Packers. Successful, not necessarily super explosive. 5 runs of the season of 30 yards or more compared to 11 for the Eagles. Now that's, there aren't a lot of 30-yard runs in the NFL, but
a lot of 10+ yards.
They're 6th and 10+ run.
Exactly.
Now you also have to factor in that they run the ball a lot. So percentage-wise, it would be a little bit lower, but just like to the nuts and bolts of it, what makes this running game so good?
So a handful of things. First off, it is a smash mouth run game. Downhill, you look at the way that this team is built from in their backfield with Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson, and even Chris Brooks. All 3 of these guys are grinders downhill between the tackles. They run more between the tackles than any team in football. It's a lot of gap scheme at you runs. And so that's the first part of it, is that they're going to come right at you downhill. Second part, they do an outstanding job with, from their pre-snap formations, but then also with the use of motion to create favorable angles. The use of motion is for eye candy in the backfield. They've got this, and honestly, I might do a little bit of reading on this before we get into into this later in the week as well. But I remember Jordan Love got hurt at the end of the Eagles game week 1. They had to go into Malik Willis for a couple of weeks, and they really flipped the offense in terms of what they were doing. And it was a lot of college-y type of run concepts and more option, and got multiple people in the backfield. And then honestly, I think it worked so well. I said we're going to keep doing a lot of this stuff. And so you see a lot where it's Jordan Love in the shotgun, 2 running back, 1 back to his left, 1 back to his right. Sometimes it's both backs. So they're one of the leaders in the league right now in pony personnel. So 2 backs on the field at once. But sometimes it's a running back and Jayden Reed back there. And so what you've got is multiple ball carriers, because they like to hand the ball off to Reed. You have to respect that. But the misdirection element, sometimes they put Reed in motion behind Jordan Love and he's going to get it. Sometimes it's he's just going back to the right. They'll fake it and then hand it off, going back to the opposite direction. Other times the motion will stop in the backfield and then they're running a downhill run. So they dress everything up to say, and that's the thing about it. When I talk about a balanced offense, this is one of the most balanced offenses in football. And it's not just like run pass. It's all right, they line up in this formation. It could be a run. It could be an outside run. It could be an inside run. It could be an RPO. It could be a screen. It could be a play action throw. It could be a straight drop back. It could be a vertical concept. They do all of these things from the same looks. So it's very like Kyle Shanahan 49ers-esque from that standpoint. All the things that we would kind of glaze them about and how they excel there. I think the same applies to this group and how they can attack defense.
And so defensively, if it's not predictable, that means you have to know your keys. You have to just play everything straight up.
Yes,
right.
Have to. And so that's to me. One of my notes in this game for second level defenders, third level defenders. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Reed Blankenship, Cooper DeJean, both linebackers. You have got to read your keys out. Don't get distracted by shiny objects moving in the backfield. We saw in that week 1 game, they got burned for a couple big plays where, there was one where C.J. Gardner-Johnson had his eyes on the motion man and they gashed them going the other way. You make sure you have to keep your eyes on your luggage. That's what one of the coaching terms there defensively that they'll use. You want to make sure that you're reading everything out and staying home to where you're supposed to be in any given defensive call. You
talked about them playing 2 backs. When I watched that Bears game, what jumped out to me was how much they were using Emmanuel Wilson, who I actually liked.
He's better than A.J. Dillon. I think that he gives them more than Dillon has in years past.
Yeah. So is he someone who, as Eagles fans are preparing for this game, they should know him as a weapon on this offense.
Yeah, and he had a few nice runs against the Eagles in that game, if memory serves. I remember like second quarter, third quarter. Remember, Josh Jacobs did nothing in the first half.
Yeah, he finished with 4 for 46 in that game against the Eagles, including an 18-yard run.
Yeah, and it was so like Josh Jacobs didn't do anything in the first half, if my memory serves, and then Emmanuel Wilson had a couple of nice runs there, and then on the second half, that's when Jacobs started to get rolling. But Wilson he's a big ball carrier. Let me get the size real quick. He's 5'10", 226. So he is a really dense ball carrier. Has gotten in the end zone 3 straight games. Some huge blocks as a lead blocker. He's essentially a fullback for them at times as well. So they'll give him the football. They'll throw it to him in the flats. He can be a downhill ball runner for them in their gap scheme. So he's a guy that you definitely want to have, be penciled and understand. He's tough to break down. I mean, he's 7th in the league right now in forced missed tackles per attempt. Josh Jacobs is in that top 20 as well. So I think when you look at both guys, they're very tough to tackle.
So this Eagles defense, second in run defense DVOA.
Yep.
What makes them so good at stopping the run?
So really, I mean, look, they do it from light boxes, which is what makes it unique, right? It's not like, they load the box and they sell out. This isn't like Jim Schwartz and they're always going to play with Malcolm Jenkins in the box and you're always going to have that extra guy. They do it with a 6-man box. And the big thing is that, number one, your guys have to win up front one-on-one. You have to win your one-on-one. So Jalen Carter, Milton Williams, all this, you've got to be disruptive and win your one-on-one. Your linebackers have to be able to defeat blocks. So essentially, again, win your one-on-one. And then the other thing is that your safeties and your nickel corner, like all those guys that are at the third level playing in space, they're not a part of the box count, but they have to add in fast. So you have to be very decisive with coming downhill and playing and being a factor there. So I think that all of that has kind of added up to the point that now that you can rely on this team to be able to stop the run from those light boxes. Now we've talked about the adjustments they've made, where it's all right, if they come out in that 4-down, 2 linebacker look, and if it's not working early, very quickly, Zack Baun will come down to the line of scrimmage, and now they'll try and throw the numbers off, and it becomes a 5-1 front.
Do you think we'll see that in this game?
I think they'll, if Green Bay has success early, I think that'll be something that they try and check to. Now, we've also seen them in recent weeks say, okay, we're going to put Cooper DeJean down in the line of scrimmage, and now it'll be like a 5-2 front. And we talked about how the positionless nature of Cooper DeJean can kind of play into that scenario.
I like what I hear.
They've got blocking tight end. The tight ends are going to be factors as blockers. I think Tucker Kraft is awesome and really, really good at the point of attack. And so he's going to be a weapon for them in that aspect as well.
To your point of balanced, just personnel wise, they're they're 13th in 11 personnel, 13th in 12 personnel. Like they're not super tilted in one way or the other. Even if you break it down by down and distance, it's like that. So I think it is an interesting matchup, and obviously they're well designed. Do you feel good about this from an Eagles run defense standpoint? I mean, we have seen games, right, where it's the Eagles running against the Saints' #1 run defense, right? And the Eagles are able to win that matchup, and all of a sudden the #1 run defense doesn't look so good. I kind of feel confident about this Eagles run defense, like, having seen them against Derrick Henry in that Ravens game. Like, I don't think that they're going to lose this game on Josh Jacobs running all over them.
I don't think it's the concern shouldn't be of Jacobs running all over them. The concern is Carolina. The concern is 2022
Commanders game.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. 2022 Commanders, Brian Robinson, where it's 4 to 5 yards a pop, and now Jordan Love is facing 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, and it's just they RPO them to death, and it's quick play actions and getting the ball out fast, and they're able to just move the ball down the field. That would be the concern. That's the thing, is that they don't need to get gashed in order for that to happen. It just might be that, hey, Green Bay is just doing just enough to be able to get 4 to 5 yards a pop. The Eagles can't let that happen because Green Bay, again, they're going to want to come out and assert themselves on the ground early. To me, the run defense has to come out of the blocks, ready to roll.
When Vic was speaking about their rush offense today, one thing that he pointed out was the offensive line has played every snap this year.
Yeah.
What jumps out about that Packers offensive line?
Yeah, I think on the whole, it's probably a better run blocking unit than pass protection unit, although their pressure numbers aren't bad. I think when you look at Elgton Jenkins, the left guard, I think he's their best player overall.
And he was paid accordingly.
Yeah. He's a good player. I think when you look around the rest of it, I would say that Josh Myers at center, better run blocker than pass protector. Actually, really think that the Eagles can get after him in pass protection a decent amount. Sean Ryan, the right guard, they did not want him to be the starter. I mean, they would have liked if the first-round pick Jordan Morgan would have been. But Morgan got hurt and is on injured reserve. But even before that, Ryan was the starter. He's another guy.
Remember they did the rotation in week 1.
Yes, and he's He's a better run blocker. Again, better run blocker than pass protector. He's not a great athlete. Zack Baun at the right tackle.
Go Deeks, right?
Go Deeks, yep. Former fourth-round pick out of Wake Forest.
Tom Zach.
Great. He's got great feet. He's got the ability to protect the corner, but he's not
Rex Ryan favorite.
Right. Yeah. He's got great feet. But I think when you're looking at ZT, he's got the ability to protect the corner, but you can test his anchor. I think that Nolan Smith.
You just throw in a ZT.
Yeah,
not
ZB.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah. But when you look at Zack Baun, he's got the ability to he can get the corner for speed, but I think Nolan Smith can try and test that anchor as well. So in pass protection, I like the Eagles' defensive line over them. I think that from a run game standpoint, they do enough working together as a unit. It's a good zone blocking group when they do run inside zone and outside zone, and I think they've got enough pop in the run game to be able to get those guys downhill.
I made the case on Anthony's show this morning that for all of the talk about whether to rest Saquon or not last week, that maybe the biggest benefit the Eagles got from being able to rest guys is that defensive line, giving them the day off.
Yep.
And Jalen Carter, who has played so many snaps, and even Nolan Smith and Josh Sweat, like they have been wearing down a little bit. They've been a little bit less effective over the last month of the season, and so if they can get just a little bit of a boost to their legs, I think that would go a long way.
Yeah, Jordan Davis did not get that week off. I was actually surprised at how deep into the fourth quarter Jordan Davis was playing. But no,
Nick said it was the best.
He does not. I know.
Yeah, Nick said it was the best he's played.
Yeah, he showed up on film. He made a handful of plays, which is what you want to see. You want to be able to see him make those plays in that situation. But I would expect that we will see a decent amount of Jordan Davis in this game too, just based off of how Green Bay plays.
Okay. All right. Good breakdown of the run game. On the other side of this break, we're going to talk about the passing game, how much it changes without Christian Watson, not Watkins. All right, let's talk about our friends at Rothman Orthopedics. At Rothman Orthopedics, you're getting specialists. You're getting people who are as good as it gets at the specific thing that they do. We're talking over 200 fellowship-trained physicians who subspecialize in specific areas of the body, and a multitude of orthopedic services, including hip, knee, spine, shoulder and elbow, foot and ankle, hand and wrist, sports medicine, physical medicine and rehabilitation, orthopedic oncology, and trauma and fracture care. To take away from the ad read for a second, unbelievably well-punctuated grammatical sentence here, because you got the colon heading into the list, and then you've got shoulder and elbow, foot and ankle. We got the commas, and they gave us the Oxford comma. I mean, A+ work from the good folks at Rothman Orthopedics.
Give them a
year
hand
over year
and a wrist.
Yeah, that's right.
And a shoulder.
Rothman consistently performs among the highest volume of hip, knee, and shoulder and ankle replacements in the country, over 60,000. But it's not just the volume of new patients and consults that Rothman is most proud of. Instead, it is their commitment to improving each of those patients' lives through their service and care. For more than 50 years, Rothman has participated in thousands of groundbreaking research and clinical trials with the goal of advancing knowledge, developing treatments, and improving outcomes for the benefit of our patients. Rothman Orthopedics, specialized in orthopedics and you. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and make an appointment today.
There's a big playoff game Sunday, 4:30. We've been breaking down on this show, and we'll break it down all week. But if you want to be there, let me tell you, playoff football, especially in Philly, is awesome. I know it's cold outside, but you feel the energy. You feel like you're there for a moment in history. And if you don't have a ticket and you need a ticket, the place to go is Game Time. We've been talking about Game Time, and it's the place where you need to turn if you want to get tickets for hard-to-find events, or hard-to-find tickets for events is a better way of framing it. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. By the way, I keep talking about Eagles playoff game because we're talking about playoff games here, but
Playoffs.
But there's a big Flyers game Saturday night too, right? You got Cutter Gauthier coming into Philly for the first time. So if you want tickets to that, also go to Game Time. And you might be wondering, What's the appeal of Game Time? Well, let me tell you. First off, the Game Time picks, like I said, curation makes it easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. The all-in pricing, that's my favorite feature because you can toggle this feature to show the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. The seat view, which is important if you want to go to this Eagles playoff game, you haven't been to the Eagles Stadium before, and you're saying, what does this look like from that section? It shows you it right there. The lowest price guarantee and also Game Time ticket coverage where your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Let's take a look at which player is heating up or cooling off with our Ace Hardware temperature check. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at www.acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project. Christian Watson, cooling off.
Jeez.
Out for the season.
Guy tore his ACL.
Hang on. So he's cooling off. Ace Hardware. Go to acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project. All right. That's all I got on Christian Watson.
We could have done it on Jordan Love. We could have done it on,
but we had to get it in.
Super
chats to get to quickly from Khalif, who says, the Sickos, a fantasy football winner, HZ's Fighting Topangas, Cousin Grace got the gold. Shout out to Cousin Grace.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Nice. Great name.
I appreciate Cousin Grace, by the way, for being such a loyal fan of our show. But also, she came to a book signing. It was great to see her. So
a different one other than the Sickos one.
Yeah, she came to one at Wheelhouse Cards in Wayne. It was great. Yeah, I appreciated that.
One of the great Sickos. Silver, the second place went to Team Name or Name Team, which is some Philly guy, and then
That's pretty good.
The third place winner went to Colin of Duty Score Zone, not a specific Birds with Friends or PHLY team name, so we're gonna have to give him a bit of a ding, but that's okay.
All right.
Real Time with Prince Blue says, why does Fangio do well against those offenses? Those offenses presumably being the McVay tree,
Yes.
like this LaFleur offense.
The main thing is that when his teams have had success against those teams, it's been being able to stop the run. You make them one-dimensional. You get to third and long, but being able to stop the run, with those fronts, getting those extra guys in the line of scrimmage, throwing the timing off, throwing the blocking assignments off, that has been the big thing. And that's why I put it at the top in terms of keys to victory for the Eagles in this one. I do think that it's going to come down to, are they able to make this offense one-dimensional? That's not to say that the Green Bay still can't win if the Eagles do stop the run, but I do think that it will go a long way towards that happening.
Have you ever heard of the illusion of complexity? That's always the phrase that's used when they face a McVay offense, right? But it is, as Professor Selman pointed out in the text today, that the Eagles have only seen one other team that's in the top 5 in motion rate this year. And that is the Rams. So from that tree. So this style of offense, even though it's in vogue around the league, it's not one that the Eagles have seen quite often this year.
It's 75% of their plays have motion. Like, it's not like, it's 55%, 75%. It's damn near every play is motion to it.
Well, and I do think that Vic Fangio specifically is a very interesting person this week. How many? And I was thinking about this. Like, okay, does he turn it up in the playoffs? How many playoff games do you think Vic Fangio has coached in the past decade?
Oh man, we're going like a Tanner McKee stat here.
This is the thing. Those 49ers teams. So we're talking starting in 2014. They were best like right before 14. So you missed that period.
Yes.
You get the Bears. He only coached one Bears playoff game.
Double doink.
The double doink game. Broncos didn't make it when he was there. Dolphins made it last year.
Yeah, so in the last 10 years, Vic Fangio has coached 2 playoff games.
Wow.
Both losses.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think that means anything necessarily, but it's not like he's been in the playoff grind anytime lately necessarily.
By the way, when he was asked like why he likes to coach in the booth, and And his answer is like, you get to see the whole field. His answer should have been, did you see Kansas City last year? Like it's so, the playoff game he coached in Kansas City when it was like literally unsafe to be outside.
Yeah, right.
And he got to be in the booth. So yeah, the Bears Eagles playoff game, he got to be in the booth. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe
secret sauce.
Yeah,
I didn't know that though. That's an interesting stat.
Then, I mean, it's a little bit selective because 12 years ago they had a long run with the Niners, and 13 years ago they had a long run with the Niners. But yeah, I mean, just in terms of the forged in the fire,
right,
hasn't happened recently.
Yeah, that's why it's kind of poetic justice, for lack of a better term, that the Super Bowl is in New Orleans this year. If he gets to New Orleans, because if the Eagles get there, he started his coaching career in New Orleans. The Super Bowl that he lost was in New Orleans, and I think there's like something significant for him about. Being able, actually, it was in Jeff McClain had a story, a good piece on Fangio before the season, and Fangio like made a reference to how he knows what the Super Bowl is this year. And
because he loved that movie with Tupac and Janet Jackson.
What's the movie?
Poetic Justice.
Oh, did not see that one.
No.
No.
Hopefully the electricity stays on for the entirety of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I actually saw someone in a coffee shop today who was a photographer at that Super Bowl. Yeah.
Okay.
We were chatting. He asked me if I'm going to the Super Bowl this year.
Is this someone you already knew?
Yeah, I knew him. I didn't. I had met him. We're not like close per se.
Former colleague?
No. He's just he knows Emily. He knows my wife. And I was at the gym this morning, and then I went to the coffee shop and just responded to some emails.
Is this the one where like you like be a member to get the what was that whole story about? Like you get the mug,
right? Yeah.
Oh no! Didn't take enough advantage of that, so I didn't do that. Where you buy the one-time thing, then you got unlimited refills for that. Yeah, no, didn't do that. This was one near the gym where I went to, but he walked in. He said, he was a nice guy. I knew, the team that he roots for. I asked how that team was going to do this weekend, this weekend, and
Can't even say the team.
The Ravens,
Oh,
and then he was telling me that he was actually at that Ravens Super Bowl shooting. Yeah, he was shooting the halftime show.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about this Packers passing game.
Yeah.
The numbers are a little odd to me. So they're third in pass DVOA, but 9th in EPA per dropback and 15th in dropback success rate. So I don't know necessarily how that is made up, but go ahead.
I was going to say the DVOA numbers with this team are interesting. And again, I think it goes to
that played, division. Yeah. I think that division is doing a lot of carrying with the DVOA numbers. We're parsing the difference between they should be 4th versus 8th or something like that, right? But first of all, how critical do you think the Christian Watson absence is to this passing game?
It's big from this respect. This is an offense where when you look at their pass catchers, it is very siloed in terms of like defined roles, right? So Christian Watson is their vertical stretch player. Jayden Reed is the move player and motions and gadget stuff and stuff underneath. When you look at Romeo Doubs, he's the outside the numbers jump ball guy. Dontavian Wicks is the possession guy underneath and is a good route runner. Everybody has their nice roles and that's that. When you lose Watson, now you need somebody else to be that vertical stretch player, and they don't really have a burner like that on the roster. Reed could be that, and he can make plays down the field, but you also you don't want to take too much away from his plate from what he does for them elsewhere either. Right. And also, I think that that's not necessarily like his best overall trait. And so now what I would say is I think that this would impact them in other games more because I don't think that Christian Watson Like the Eagles don't give up explosive plays.
Well, they hadn't until the last 2 games.
But
But they did against Green Bay too when they played them.
But those were more like missed tackles, explosive,
and like
right?
and like coverage busts and stuff like that. I just thought this group has that would be uncharacteristic.
They cleaned that up. That's fair.
I think that if this were a team where if this were the Ravens secondary, I would say, oh boy, like that's good. That's a big loss for them going into this game. But I think with the way that the Eagles have played for the majority of the year, it's big, but I don't think it's as big. He's been their leading receiver against man-to-man coverage. But the Eagles aren't a big man-to-man team. The teams have had a lot of success playing man-to-man against them in recent weeks. I know Minnesota a couple weeks ago basically just like majored in man like the entire game. I do think that this Eagles secondary, I look across the board, I say these would be matchups that they should win. And honestly, like this should be a big like press coverage, sticky coverage, challenge them through the route at the catch point, because this group has really struggled to secure the football. They're second in drop rate, or third or fourth, depending on which service you look at, but they're one of the worst in terms of drops so far this year. I think if you're able to get physical with this group, compete with them through the catch point, I think you're going to win more often than not.
I always, out of the respect I have for Fran Duffy, when like I think, what's that?
Never heard of him.
When I think something and then I see it in Fran's write-up, I'm like, oh, okay. I might have like a small inkling of something here, like because I trust Fran implicitly here. So
Not
when
like that with me.
What's that? No, you too.
Only when he reads in your rough draft.
When he's peeping.
I don't know what he's writing this week. I just saw do not open it, and I will not open it. Have not, will not. So when I saw the injury, I was thinking Bo Melton would be the guy who would pick it. Bo Melton, a local guy from
Egg Harbor.
Yeah. Is he the player to look for in terms of stretching the offense?
Probably. He's
defense,
5'11", 189. He's certainly not as explosive as Christian Watson, but I think when you look at the skill set, I think that he also can do some of the stuff that Jayden Reed does do as well. So I think that if you
like Reed outside, Melton inside.
Yeah, so maybe like, all right, Melton picks up 40% of it and Reed takes up the other 60, and then when Reed is doing that, then Melton can pick up some of the things that Reed was doing as well. So I do think that the Watson injury is big. I don't think it's as big in this matchup.
So what do you make of the blitz, no blitz, man zone splits? And I'll get into them here, but I'm curious what you make of them. So blitz, the Packers are 15th in success rate and 26th in EPA per dropback when they're blitzed. When they're not blitzed, it goes all the way up to 3rd in EPA per dropback, although it is still 13th in success rate. So big plays, not necessarily down by down dominance. And then the split on man versus zone against man, they're 26th in success rate and 27th in EPA per dropback, bottom quartile in the league. And then against zone, again, 12th in success rate, but 3rd in EPA per dropback. So that's the same thing as the no blitz. They're making big plays. And obviously that comes in a matchup where the Eagles defense, what they major in is not blitzing, 31st in the league in blitz rate. And they play man a little bit more than I think we maybe expected coming into the season. 19th in man percentage at about 25% of the time. What do you make of those splits aside from the playing in the NFC North against the Brian Flores types?
If you riff for a little bit, I'll pull up some numbers there. But I will say to actually, yeah, keep riffing.
A lot of it is the chunk plays, like I'm talking about. So they have the 3rd most passing plays in the NFL of 20 yards or more.
Yep.
So those big passing plays are coming most of the time. It feels like, according to these numbers, on when they're sitting back against static zones that are not blitzing them. And those are, to be fair, those are specifically the kinds of plays that the Eagles do not give up.
Correct. All right. So here's what I did. So I went through, and I've got Next Gen up, and I'm looking at all their games this year from Jordan Love. So that does remove some of the Malik obviously the Malik Willis games. And I don't know how Willis performed against the blitz in those. I will say that when Willis has been the starter, they're 2-0, but it's like heavy run game. Like we're talking like 18 pass attempts over the course
I think
of the
Dennis
game.
has it for Jordan Love specifically.
Okay,
so Jordan Love, 4th in EPA per dropback against no blitz, 26th in EPA per dropback against the blitz.
Yeah, so they had some really bad performances from an EPA per dropback game, and I'm looking at the teams that he went up against where it was really bad. LA Rams, Arizona Cardinals. Now the third one on this list is the Chicago Bears just this past week in Week 18. Now, keep in mind, he was 2 for 4 in that game, so it's a very small sample in that game. Then both Lions games, then that Eagles game. All right, so that Eagles game. So we'll take a look just at those the bottom 5 performances. Okay, so Eagles game.
Thanks for watching, by the way, on television. And check out allphly.com to catch the rest of this episode.
All right, so Eagles game, week 1. Maybe you throw that up to week 1 and just also the playing surface. I mentioned how he just didn't look comfortable the entire game.
Sushi,
all that, everything in there. When I look at the Detroit Lions, the Arizona Cardinals, and the LA Rams, I look at 3 teams that really like to play with sub package, light bodies in the field, everybody up on the line of scrimmage, and mess with you from a who's coming and who's not coming standpoint. And when I look at the Eagles, that's not the way that they play. That's not the way that they go about pressuring the quarterback. And so what I would say in terms of how the blitz versus non-blitz numbers and how it pertains to this matchup, I don't think it's applicable. I don't think because I don't think that Vic Fangio is going to change his stripes and say like, all right, this is what we're going to do here. From a blitzing standpoint, when I look at the games where he has struggled against the blitz, that's the identity of those pressure schemes.
So fair to say then that Jayden Reed is the guy to worry about for the secondary in this game.
Yeah.
He is 19th in the league in yards per route run, but he doesn't get targeted a ton, which means that he's 3rd in the league among all wide receivers in yards per target, 1 spot ahead of A.J. Brown. So there's some selectivity bias there because if he's open, you're going to throw it to him. But he's there with no Christian Watson. He's the guy who can really hurt you.
So Jordan Love targeting Jayden Reed this year. Best passer rating of any QB wide receiver duo, not just like of this season, but of in recent memory.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, they've just been in lockstep and have been hitting for big plays.
But it's not a crazy high target rate.
Correct.
So
yeah. And so actually, what's interesting? So look, I wasn't going to watch all 18 or 17 games of the Green Bay Packers in the last couple of days. So what I did was basically everything I watched, all the cut-ups I watched were from week 10 on. All the numbers I pulled were from the entire season, but all the cut-ups I watched were from week 10 on. And one thing I did was watch every single target for all of these pass catchers. And when I'm going through it, I'm like, all right, like who's like the leading target getter? I thought it was really interesting the fact that Romeo Doubs, Jayden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Tucker Kraft, all 4 of those guys had between 49 and 32 targets. Like it's the complete opposite of the Eagles, where everything is A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. All 4 had between 29 and 32 targets, and Christian Watson was right behind them with 26. So everybody has this key piece of the pie, and they go to everybody equally, and just goes back to that balance.
If I can ask real quick, because you said you've watched all the cut-ups since week 10. If you can put the viewers, the listeners inside Vic's office this week, what's the coach's process? How far back do they go? I understand they have quality control coaches and position coaches, but let's say Vic in particular. Like, what's the coordinator's process during a playoff game like this when there's such a reservoir of film for this team?
Yeah, the QC coaches had done a lot of the work leading in terms of making sure all the cut-ups were ready. And when I say cut-ups, that is like a very granular look at one particular situation. So, and it can get extremely granular in terms of what coaches want to be able to look at. So if you want to be, and now with Next Gen and with PFF, those are at the public's fingertips as well. Did not used to always be that way, obviously, but if you want to be able to see, hey, you know what, like I want to watch
every
all
third and 4.
Yeah, hey, I want to watch all the third downs. Great, but no, I want to watch all the third downs out of 21 personnel when Tucker Kraft's on the field. Like, all right, okay, you can go and you can pull that, and if you can get like granular that way, or if you just want to say like, I want to see everything, all of the red zone gap scheme runs, like you can get into all of these different situations, and so every coach is different in terms of how granular focused they want to get, but you're going through all of it and situationally, and so you're looking at some of these numbers, and you would say, like for instance, I go through all the numbers today. I'm doing their defense today. Getting ready for Thursday's show, and they're bad against empty. Their success rate against empty was really, really bad. And so one thing I'm gonna be doing tonight is, all right, like I'm gonna go through empty.
That's
what
awesome.
What are the different formations in empty that give them problems? How often is this position targeted at empty? Is there one guy that gets targeted most in empty? Those are the kind. So basically, it's like you try and find some trends, and then you go down you kind of follow the breadcrumbs that way and see where that takes you, and you can see how much of that you can apply.
I can tell the audience, no one else covering the Eagles is watching every single snap against empty tonight.
Probably not.
So
We'll see.
That's why it's awesome that Fran's
people
here.
are going to take that as a challenge. And
Well, I mean, no, I think it's evident in the work. Fran's not one of these people who just put stuff out there. Like
Sure.
he showed. The work is evident. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
I think my general takeaway is that this specific matchup, the more we dive into it, makes me feel better about it from the Eagles until we get to one thing. So you've got, the Packers are one of the better running teams in the NFL. I feel pretty good about the Eagles being able to handle that running game.
Yep.
The ways in which the Packers offense as a passing offense is successful, big plays against zones that are not blitzing. I'm not really worried about that from an Eagles standpoint. We can throw 3 or 4 very competent wide receivers at opposing defenses that are not going to have the bodies in the secondary to man up with or even just zone up with any of those guys because there's just not enough talent on most teams' secondaries. I feel pretty good about the depth of the Eagles secondary. They should be able to handle all of these guys. It feels like an advantageous matchup for the specific matchup until you get to how good is Jordan Love? Because
Jordan Love is really
Jordan
good.
Love worries me.
Yeah, Jordan Love is really good. We talked about like the man zone splits and things like that. They like carve up zone coverage, and some of that can be a little bit noisy. Again, you're going into like the matchups and things like that. But I think when you look at why would they be good against zone as opposed to man, I think when you look at it from a route concept standpoint, a lot of the things that they run, it's like the complete opposite of iso ball. It's everything complements one another. Things are dressed from a certain standpoint where hey, we're going to run dagger, a play that we talk about all the time, right? So where you have the inside route running a clear out route and you have the deep dig behind it, but you dress it up in so many different ways. And it's not just, we're going to line up in this formation and we're going to run it the same way 4 times in a given game. We're going to run it one way, and then we're going to run it again from a slightly different way. And then we're going to run it again from the first time, but we're going to switch these 2 receivers' roles and their locations in the formation just to throw you off a little bit. And then we're going to run a change up off of it. They do a great job with all of that in game, week to week. But then also, like, that's the thing is that the Eagles do play a high percentage zone. At the end of the day, like, that's where the matchups don't necessarily matter. Right, because if you're playing zone and you play it really, really well, then that's fine. Like that can be you can kind of level the playing field from a talent standpoint. Likewise, offensively, if you run a concept really, really well, that can stretch out those zones and you can get beat. So if you're C.J. Gardner-Johnson and you're not you don't have your I's dotted and your T's crossed on every single play, you're out of position. You give up a big play touchdown, right? So those are the kinds of things where the fact that they are so good at stressing those zones. That would give me a little cause for concern, especially given the fact, again, Jordan Love is awesome, man. Like the numbers are not as gaudy this year. It's coming into the year, we talked about how good he is, and he finished so strong in the second half of last year. This is a guy that can make every single throw. He will have some misses, especially when he's on the run. I went through. There was the one next gen stat I saw was more so than basically any quarterback. His QB rating, that's the thing that kind of set me up.
His favorite stat.
His QB rating, the difference between when he was pressured versus not pressured was so much bigger, or so much, the difference was so wide. I go through and it's like drop. And it's like, it's not like a bunch of bad misses and he's like looking, he's looking erratic when he's under pressure. It's like he's making these crazy throws and the receiver, whatever. Like it's a bunch of younger. That's the other thing. All these receivers are like year 3 and under. It's a very young offensive skill core. Jordan Love is really good. Like he's a very, very good player. Stop me if you've heard this.
Second best quarterback in the game, probably after McKee.
Right. Oh yeah, we can have that debate. But I think when you look at, I lost my train of thought there.
You're saying he's a great quarterback. He's a real good quarterback.
When you look at that's right, the narrative.
You found it. Nice work.
Yes, thank you. First 8 games this year that he started, he threw interceptions, and so everything in Green Bay was He's
Pressing
not
'cause
taking
of the contract.
pressing.
Yeah.
He's not taking care of the football. He's got to take care of the football. And now you fast forward to, like, I know they were saying it last week. They were saying it because the outfit they lost to Minnesota a couple weeks ago, and he's on this streak now where the last 7 games he hasn't thrown a pick, but now in Green Bay everyone's like, he's got to cut it loose more. He's not pushing it down the field. They've taken his stinger away. So it sounds very similar to some of the things we've heard here with Jalen Hurts. But this is a guy that can make every single throw. He does not get sacked. He is one of the toughest quarterbacks in football. It was the same last year. He does not take those negative plays. The big thing is when you do pressure him, he will go in the past. He will go big game hunting and will make those ill-advised throws late in the middle of the field and throw those interceptions. But again, in the last couple of months, he has not made those. Now the big thing will be the injury. Is the elbow? Is the elbow going to bother him? It
doesn't sound like they're very worried about it. Huh?
No.
Right.
It doesn't sound like sound like LaFleur is like super worried about it. I think that he spoke afterwards. Love did after the game and said like he lost feeling in his hand. So it's if that's all good and his full systems go, it's going to be a big test. And I know that he hasn't beaten anybody good and all that. He's a really good, like, with confidence. Like, he's a top 7 quarterback in football.
I was curious to see, because I like your color designations, if he was going to get a blue or green.
Yeah.
And he got a blue from you, which is like the highest compliment you can give someone on the scouting report.
We're in blue.
And he is the only blue player on their offense.
Yeah, I think that when you look at the rest of the guys around it, there's a handful of greens.
Yes.
But you look
And
at
greens, by the way, are impact starters. Blues are stars.
Yeah. I think when you look at the rest, and Jacobs honestly probably would be a blue if you were to put, because positional value is incorporated there, because this also correlates with my draft stuff. But
what about Alfred Blue?
Or Jayden Blue. Talk through the Texas game later this week. Yeah, Alfred Blue, the ball carrier. No, but
what? I got your head out of the gutter. By the way, okay. Shield texted that one time recently.
Recently, yeah.
And I had no idea what you were referring to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had no idea. And I was trying. I was like, is there a joke that I'm missing here?
Yes.
And then I thought there might be a different expression in there that you were referring to. And then I didn't put it together until I saw that joke on Twitter as well. And I actually read it out loud. I'm like, oh, okay. So I had I was completely ignorant. I was completely ignorant when.
Yeah, but it's not that you should have gotten the joke. It's that you should have remembered the conversation about it.
I don't remember the conversation. Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be like 2015.
Oh, I mean, we've talked about that for a while. That's been a running. That's been a running gag.
It's a running gag. Yeah, it's a good one. Sickos in the chat.
No pun intended.
That one. It's bad. Jordan Love's really good. Jordan Love's really good. Look, this team is 0-5 versus teams with 13+ wins this year. They're 11-1 versus everybody else. I think the one stat I thought that was interesting too. Matt LaFleur, he's got four seasons now with 12+ wins. Has not been to a Super Bowl yet. And Marty Schottenheimer is the only coach in NFL history to have more seasons like that with 12 wins without going to a Super Bowl. I know that people are getting antsy up there in Green Bay about it, about why they haven't had that postseason success. And they're going to have a tough road ahead if they're going to be able to do it this year and get it done. But this is a good team, and I do think it's a team that's capable of coming in and getting a win at Lincoln Financial Field Sunday.
It's crazy to think he's been there for 6 years now. You still think of him as like, oh, they hired Matt LaFleur. 6 years is a long time.
A lot of wins.
Yes,
a lot of wins.
I think he's one of the best coaches in football.
I think so.
I do think that he is overrated from a handsomeness standpoint. There's a lot of people who talk about like, oh, Matt LaFleur is very attractive. He's trying too hard. He's too well manicured.
Too well manicured.
Yeah. He looks too much like someone who cares about the way that he looks.
There's a tinge of like jealousy there, I feel.
No, not at all.
He's no Arthur Smith.
Julia, what do we think of Matt LaFleur? Yeah. He's no D'Amico.
Yeah, well, all right. I mean, is he...
Not many people are, but...
But is he like top quartile? Is he top 8? He's top 8.
He's got, well, I mean, are we counting the fired guys?
Yeah, I think you have to based off this conversation.
I think he's without going through it, which I'm happy to do. I would guess that he is top quartile. But yeah,
easily top quartile. I'm just going.
I don't think he's in contention for number one.
Okay.
Anyways, he's 67-33 as a head coach, but 3-4 in the postseason. Game management wise, what are your thoughts on him as a game manager?
I think he's better than most of the people in his tree.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think he's McVay and Shanahan, who tend to turtle when it matters. He seems to be more willing to go in those situations.
Yeah, I mean, he's learned his most famous moment as a head coach was turtling when it matters. But
better looks or better game management?
I mean, in relation to the rest of the NFL.
Yeah. Trying to see if
I think he's a very good game planner.
Yards after catch is really big in this offense. And that goes back to, I think the Eagles, to me, like this should be a Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Darius Slay. It doesn't need to be press every single snap, but more press than what they typically do. And then through the route has to be extremely physical, competitive. I think you can not get in Green Bay's heads, but I think you can take them out of the game in that way. If you can out physical this group. So that would be one thing that I'd be keeping an eye on. We talked about the safeties, what they can do. I think that the Eagles' defensive line can win some of these matchups. I think Elgton Jenkins, again, the best of the group up front in that O-line, but everybody else I think is gettable from a pass pro standpoint. Yeah, I think we've hit on pretty much everything. I'll have a little bit more, obviously, in my notes on allphly.com later this week.
By the way, credit to that Packers front office when you look at this roster. Like you see the amount of teams that are just always bad, and then there's a reason why the Packers.
Yeah, you know what the reason that they're consistently good is?
Why?
They have the best owners in football.
You think because they're a publicly traded company?
Because they don't have an owner.
Okay.
Honestly, there is something to that from they have a process and they just stick to that process, and it's I mean, they've been doing the same thing from a scouting standpoint, from a team building standpoint for decades.
Yeah, they draft and develop well, and then when they go, they have this reputation of not pursuing free agents. This year, they signed Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs, and they're two of the most impact signings there are. So it's just a well-run organization, and it shows you that you don't have to be, that if you just draft well, you don't have to draft at the top every year.
Yep.
They very seldom draft near the top. You don't need to be in a big market to attract, players. You draft well, you sign your own, you get good coaches. They've done a good job. I have a lot of respect for the Packers.
You know what they do for Elgton Jenkins?
What's that?
Elgton Jenkins.
What about him?
Blocking man. I think there's something there.
Let's see if you got
plowing downfield all alone.
You've got a few days to workshop it.
Holding up Jalen Carter on his own. I don't know. Probably not the same side of the ball.
No, he's not.
But
We'll be going up against Milton Williams.
They have a mandatory retirement age, the Packers organization. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah. Mandatory retirement at 70. That's why Mark Murphy, their team president, is leaving. Turns 70. It's a mandatory retirement age from the organization.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, I love the work.
Your worst nightmare.
I love the work, but I can understand. I mean, I respect if it's a policy. And speaking of policy, their new president's ed policy, but but I respect
most respectable man under the sun.
No, it makes sense to me, right? And yeah, I can certainly understand it.
What was the Peckness migrate we had there in the chat, Julia? LaFleur, McVay, and Cliff Kingsbury.
Oh my god.
I mean, Zach's got an opinion on this, though. We know that Zach is.
I don't like this conversation. I don't like this conversation. I don't like this conversation. I think it's inappropriate. I think it objectifies these coaches.
I think I go.
Yeah.
I think I migrate Cliff. I think I probably nest McVay, even though he's a little bit too thirsty. Going with the shirt off photos, and then I'll peck LaFleur. Contrasting takes on the blocking man. Travis says, "Bo, that was epic," but the next person says, "Not your best work, Bo."
I lean on the latter. I think you've definitely done better.
Well, all right. Anything else on this matchup?
No, I think we'll do the defense on Thursday.
Very quickly, if I can find it on Deniz's thing here, situationally, I wanted to talk about. Where's red zone here? Bop, bop, boop, bop, 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 bop.
I'm actually glad you bring this up. Go ahead.
If you have it, go ahead.
Well, no, it's because I was going through their numbers, whatever day and time this was, but recently with going through their red zone numbers, they are 10th overall in red zone. But they are 27th in terms of how much man coverage they face. They are 28th in red zone run success rate, which I was surprised by. I figured, this is a team that wants to run their football. They'd be a little bit more successful when they do go to run it. And I was like, all right, well, what's happening here? How are they 10th in red zone, but they're struggling to kind of to be able to put points on the board? Or how are they putting these points on the board if they're not running it well? Jordan Love has the best adjusted completion rate, which again accounts for throwaways and drops in football. 79% adjusted completion rate. So when they get into the tight area of the field, he has been more precise than any other quarterback in football.
Okay, 10th in red zone percentage.
Correct.
76.
Yes.
There you go. And Eagles defense, of course.
Eagles defense is. I have that. Eagles defense is
tied
8th.
for 5th. I have.
I know why. Because for my numbers this week, I threw out week 18. I didn't do week 18. So that would be why.
There you go. Zach, any final thoughts from you?
I enjoyed the football conversation for sure. I'm smarter because of it. And looking forward to the offense conversation on Thursday. But no.
I think we're going to have Daniz join us on Thursday. Make it a 4-man weave.
Love the 4-man weave.
Terrific.
Long show on Thursday.
Tomorrow we got Jamie and Rich at 2, and then we're going to do an extra show, a little primetime show. So for those of you sickos who potentially can't join live during the 2 o'clock shows, you get a chance to get in the mess with the chat live at prime time, 8 o'clock on Wednesday. Me, Zach, Les Bowen.
By the way, check Les's column out right now on allphly.com. Went up at 6 a.m. this morning.
Why was that so pointed?
It wasn't pointed. I was saying it went up this morning. Okay. I didn't get a chance to talk about it on yesterday's show. It went up this morning.
Got it. Okay.
Was that pointed?
I don't know.
Yeah. You said more pointed things.
Yeah. It went up this morning.
Okay.
On all I should have mentioned it earlier in the show. Always like when Les writes.
Les is awesome, as Claire 2.0 says. What happened to Claire 1.0? Why is this Claire 2.0?
Claire's name at one point was that she thought Fran was being wronged for
justice for Fran. Yeah.
Are we going over Swooper results today or no?
I was going to say that for Thursday, but you can peacock a little bit if you want.
I just want to point out one thing. So because this actually involves you and Sunset Shaz, one of our favorite listeners, viewers.
Speak for
readers.
yourself.
Big Sunset Shaz fan.
I like his kids more.
So technically, the Eagles didn't finish number 1 in scoring defense. Okay. And based on the criteria we were using, we outlined the amount of points they needed. They came very close. But they used the Sean McDermott method, as Sean McDermott once emailed
properly.
Yes. Sean McDermott once emailed Bo. If you take out the the
points scored by opposing defense and special teams.
Yes. Then the Eagles did finish first, thanks to Daniel Popper, our friend, who actually looked that up. So the Eagles technically number 2 in scoring defense, but when only factoring the points that the defense allowed, would be number 1 in scoring defense.
Good to know.
Yeah. So Sean, if Vic Fangio was watching Swooper and he wants to email, I won't put Bo's email out, but Zach at allphly.com. You can always email me there. If Vic wants to email me, but I gave the correction on the show just to make sure.
Thank you. I mean, once you give your email out, it's pretty easy to figure out what my email is.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Because actually, one of the problems we had at our former employer was people were trying to email you, but if they didn't know your first name, then they couldn't email you.
Yeah, you're not as easy to figure out because it could be a number of different options there.
Wasn't there your government name?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Cosmo.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So
yes, that's true.
Yeah. So that's why
point.
there were a lot of people who would email me being like, I wasn't able to get a hold of Bo because of that. Yeah. So it could very well be your government name.
That sounds so shady when you say it like that.
I saw one of these social media clips from the Jets. You know how they have like
my email address is blockinman@allphl.com.
Yeah. The Jets did one of those things where their social media staff polled the players as they came off the field, and they called them by their government name, and it freaked the players out.
The Rams did one of those as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about plagiarism? Like, everyone's doing the same stuff on this.
That's all that is. Yeah. Sad state of
affairs. Let's have some creativity. Come on. All right. That'll do it for the PHLY Eagles podcast on this handsome Blue Tuesday. Not too late to, if you've made it this far, that means you're a real sicko. Check out that All City store. You can get some Saquon Barkley merchandise. There's a Cooper DeJean shirt. It's a Jeremiah Trotter Jr. shirt if you really want to get freaky, and all kinds of good stuff. Otherwise, we will talk to you tomorrow. For Julia, Fran, and Zach, we thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Make sure that you hit like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Evangelize about the show. Lots more to come this week. As always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.